walk around with our heads in the clouds most of the time. This means we are ignorant to the world around us. Many values can be seen in many different ways, and we are not observing these values. Modesty is a value that can be in everyone, but they appear in different ways. Let's take a look at the different ways modesty can appear. Today I want to discuss modesty and an example of this value. We should all understand modesty as a common value when we see it around us. I have researched the sources used and have determined them to be credible. I will discuss the value of modesty, then I will discuss Abraham Lincoln as a representative of modesty, and then I will use anecdotes to represent modesty. What is modesty? There are two major cognitive accounts of modesty according to author Aaron Ben-Zeev in his article, The Virtue of Modesty. The first cognitive account of modesty is the agent knows his or her superior worth, but does not reveal it in speech or behavior in the sense the agent is insincere. This tells us that a modest person does not flaunt the fact that he or she is above other people. The second cognitive account of modesty is the agent underestimates his or her worth in the sense the agent is ignorant. This tells us that he or she does not know how important or superior they really are. The head cheerleader walks into the school expecting people to make way and flaunt at her beauty. The student with the highest GPA of the school walks into the school expecting nothing and just wants to start their daily class routine. The difference here is that the smartest student in the school does not flaunt their IQ, but just goes about their day, while the cheerleader flaunts her beauty for everyone to admire. The student is modest, where the cheerleader is arrogant. One outstanding example of modesty in everyday life is Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was known for many things, and modesty was high on the list. Abraham Lincoln is an example of being the type of modest that had a high level of superiority, but he did not flaunt it, and he did not assume he was better than any other man. According to Michael Burlingham, author of Abraham Lincoln: A Life, quotes Lincoln as saying, "I have made a great many poor speeches and now feel relieved that my dignity does not permit me to be a public speaker." Lincoln describes himself as an ordinary man and does not see himself as what he really is, a role model for Americans. In Lincoln's speech, he acts like he is a normal, hardworking citizen like everyone else, instead of the President of the United States of America. Abraham Lincoln was elected to be our 16th President of the United States of America. Lincoln was a war hero and a public role model that the North looked up to. He gave public speeches as if he were an ordinary man. He spoke to his citizens as if he were speaking to peers about everyday life. This is how Lincoln ran his presidency and is why he is known to be a modest man. Modesty defines us based on who we are. Abraham Lincoln was top model for this value. Another example of modesty in Abraham Lincoln is him giving speech to the citizens of Lawrenceburg, Indiana. According to author Michael Burlingham, November 6, 2012, Lincoln was quoted as saying, "I have been selected to fill an important office for a brief period, and am now, in your eyes, invested with influence which will soon pass away. But should my administration prove to be a wicked one, or what is more probable, a very foolish one, if you, the people, are but true to yourselves and to the Constitution, there is but little harm I could do, thank God." Lincoln was speaking to these citizens as if they were fellow peers and not the people he was elected to guide to a better tomorrow. Lincoln shows his modesty by demonstrating a quick speech to inform those citizens that with their help he can do no wrong. Lincoln and his wife set out on a night on the town in April of 1865. They went to Ford Theater to watch the evening show with two friends. That night was going to be a night that will be remembered for centuries. Lincoln was a modest man and did not want to be escorted to the theater by guards. He saw himself as a normal human being, just like everyone else. That night at the Ford Theater, Lincoln was assassinated during the show. There was no one there to protect him because of his modesty. Now that we have discussed modesty and the example of Abraham Lincoln, we can now come to a conclusion. The discussion of modesty as a value and the cognitive accounts of modesty has left us with an understanding of what modesty truly means. Using Abraham Lincoln as an example of modesty also helps us to identify what it means to be modest. The use of anecdotes throughout this speech allowed an imagery of modesty in its everyday use. Maybe this will teach you to try to be more modest in everyday living. It also may have helped you to observe the modesty all around you that you would not have connected before. Modesty can be in many forms, and now we can pinpoint it in others.